Mount Vesuvius was blown because the crater began to leak into the inner earth, so they had to patch it with the lava from Mount Vesuvius.
Mm-hmm.
Then you had the Gulf of America, formerly known as the Gulf of Mexico, as a crater. That's not even a secret. They already know that's part of regular science. Meteor struck where the Mediterranean is, meteor, and what meteors? Those was atomic bombs.
Who was the Anunnaki beefing with? At the
They
time,
fighting each other. They
it was
was
just,
having sibling rivalries in a fight for dominance within an internal family, and they used people like chess pieces to play the war out in the open, in the general population. So you got them controlling the war by nobody not knowing that the war is taking place. But the ultimate end game is to wake up from the slumber of the Piscean age in the artificially induced nuclear winter in order for us to come back to our senses as to who we were as eternal beings. We always been, we gonna always be, but we didn't always have bodies. Meat modems, earth rovers.
Since we're so familiar with this vehicle, we call the Earth Rovers. We done had some good shows about this vehicle we call the human body, right? I mean, we done did about 4 or 5 different segments on it, man, and just touched on it from different angles, man. It's been dope. What vehicle did we use before the human body, Rod?
We whole like when you're not in the physical body, you was called a whole light being. Or etheric being.
I thought you was gonna say something like dragons or some shit like that, Rod.
No, dragon is a metaphor, comparative analysis. It don't mean dragons didn't exist. But when you say we were dragons, that means we spit fire when we talk. We masters, we high chiefs. Right? Dragon mean master. Master with the power to control and speak into existence of things was commonly referred to in Kemet as Husia, exceptional or authoritative utterance, exceptional insight. That make you a dragon.
Yeah, y'all. This is the man. So, all right. So when all right, the nuclear winter thing, that is a very interesting part of history that a lot of people don't know about. When the nuclear winter was coming to an end, and on Google it says the ice age ended around 11,000 years ago. What's the civilization that popped up on the scene? The first civilization once this nuclear ice age ended, Rod, this nuclear winter.
So Atlantis was still operational. It's just a lot of its metropolises had been rendered useless through warfare. Right? So now we coming from out of the ice age 11,000 years ago, and this is when you see the rise of Kemet. The onset of modern history, the settling of Samaria. Right? So all it is, like if you go back to the first dynastic period, that's not the first dynasty. They had kings lists with kings that lived and ruled for thousands of years because we was living back then. It was called the forever time, or the Tepi, I think is how you pronounce it. Right, the eternal time, the time where the physical body, if you had a proper diet, you could homeostasis set in, and you know how to maintain the balance, then your body could live for a prolonged time. And then you had the aid of secondary avatars to use too. While this one getting repaired in the sarcophagi, I could get up in another body and walk around like I ain't in there getting worked on.
Ain't that some shit? So it's gonna go back to that, Rod?
We still had the technology. It was just frozen in Earth. They got it now.
They got the technology in Antarctica.
Yeah, yeah.
Shit.
They
So,
thought them people out. They the ones telling them all of this, all the moves to make. They thought when Richard Burton went down to Antarctica to see what they was doing down there, he discovered that it was frozen over. It was flash froze. People was in the middle of the street. They never get to move. They walking down the street in motion and frozen. That means they was frozen instantly. Now they need to know how to throw them out. This is where you get the cryostasis from. We ain't know nothing about no cryostasis until we got there messing with the people in Antarctica. They frozen and telepathic at the same time. Let that sink in.
Whoo. Yo, family, ain't this is some interesting? This is the history that is heavily suppressed.
Listen, when they thawed them out, they told us over here that these people came from Africa and adapted extremely well to the cold of Antarctica. And they called them the Bazinga tribe. That's some BS. They was already in Antarctica, and they already told them how to thaw them out. They already had this technology. This is nothing new. Nothing new under the sun, Brother Rich. We did all of this stuff a bazillion times. But it was the same but different every time.
Right. The same but different every time. You know what I think is confusing, Rod? All right, so the shit you talking about, Rod, and I always be like, yo, Rod, you be saying some out of this world shit, Rod. And you talking about, nuclear winners and Anunnaki beings and people being able to use different avatars, different bodies. I think what's confusing to melanated people in particular, I think white people could gravitate, when I'm quote, white, black, they could grasp concepts easier sometimes because of their lack of, I guess, indoctrination. Like we were indoctrinated with religion. Everything is just evil to us. Everything is the devil to us. And
that's the barrier of fear.
Yeah. And but this is what I was gonna say. Some of our master teachers, Rod, like let's say Dr. Ben, let's say Dr. John Henry Clark. They didn't say the stuff you saying. So when you come after them, right? And I'm not even talking about Dr. York now. Let's just say Dr. Ben, Dr. John Henry Clark. When you come after them and say this stuff, the first thing people think is, well, hey, the master teachers, Dr. Ben, Dr. John Henry Clark, Ivan Van Sertima, so on and so forth. They didn't say it. So this dude has got to be out his MFM mind because they didn't say it. So my thing is like, why you think they didn't talk about some of this stuff?
A lot of the stuff I'm talking about, they make mention of.
Okay.
Right. When we starting at history beginning, modern history, right, at the first dynasty of Egypt. That's when we got the first clock of modern time.
Dynasty of Egypt.
Right. So, because this is the standard of history. Anything before that is called antediluvian history.
Antediluvian. Yeah.
Which means before the flood.
Right.
Which means when the ice finally melted from the artificially induced nuclear winter, the melting of the ice caused mud to be everywhere. It wasn't a literal flood; it was frozen.
So it wasn't a literal flood like how we think it was.
No, everything was frozen, and then when the nuclear winter, it can't break until it cleaned the radiation up enough. This is what switches your genetics, by the way. Radiation is what causes the unnatural change in DNA. And this is what caused us to go from magnesium-based to iron-based. Because we was originally breathing ozone, the double O oxygen molecule. Now we breathe in the single oxygen molecule. So it changes the rate of combustion in the biology. When we use magnesium, right, we giving off radiant shades of blue and green. We look like that movie, The Avatar, except we not tall. With tails, we standing around with blue skin and afros, blue skin and straighty hair. But we all had shades of blue to green. This is why you see that Osiris is olive green. You see Krishna is baby blue. Sometimes he navy blue. Kali Ma, she's blue, almost black. So the different shades, because it's mixing with the melanin.
Mm-hmm.
The plants still use the dominant magnesium. That's why they have chlorophyll instead of blood. Right? In the plant blood, chlorophyll can clean your human blood. Right? So this is where we get to taking out the sea moss and the sour sop and all that. That's because the nutrition in the plant's chlorophyll have all of the frequencies to correct the anomalies in the genetics of the blood-based human.
Mm-hmm.
Because it remembers, it can communicate with the DNA going back to before we switched from magnesium to iron, going from shades of blue to shades of wheat.
So, Rod, so if we, we went from magnesium to iron, the air was different. You said we went from breathing magnesium to breathing oxygen, you saying, right?
No, that's the base metal of the body.
Okay.
It's the metal that causes us to turn brown with our melanin now instead of green.
Okay, is the
That's
iron.
the iron.
The iron.
The magnesium is when we used to be green. Right. Today, when the baby's born with the green patch on them or the heavy magnesium concentration, because they go through it in the womb. All stages of human evolution is gone through in the womb for 9 months before the baby is born.
Right.
And it's a period of time where the baby in the womb is either pale gray or some shade of green. They call it the Mongolian spots. But if you remember, they're going from magnesium based to copper based because mama's DNA said in order to survive in this oxygen ratio to carbon, you have to be able to process faster than the magnesium. So the iron is going to replace it. Then the baby switches over in his DNA structure in order to facilitate iron as opposed to magnesium. So now the skin begins to go from them shades of green to shades of brown as the baby assimilates the iron and it puts the magnesium as the support metal. Like you can't process none of the metals in the body without the magnesium.
So, Rod, if we're going back to the golden age, are we also going to go back to how we look during the golden age and go from brown back to being green because that was our original color?
Not necessarily. It depends on what Mother Earth do with the atmosphere. Right. If she turned the temperature up, we might go to shades of orange and red. Which would mean that she's replacing it with probably another trace metal that tarnishes red, like it might be silver or something.
Right.
That has a red tint to the. So we come from shades of orange and red. This is why the skin-based racism is so weird to old souls. Old souls looking at it like that's the dumbest thing I ever seen in my life. But the ones who was the new souls, the ones who had the Iceman inheritance that suffered from the psychopathic racial personality, they the ones who had to go through the catharsis of being a piece of trash to other people so that they can internalize the suffering so that they can learn to have compassion. We're looking at conditions of the newest addition to the human family, burning off their bad karma, and we build up pre-karma as a side effect.
Wow. Damn, Ron.
And when the last become first, that's when we all rich.
Right. Let's go to Antarctica, Rod. We always hear about Antarctica when we, when we go deep in ancient times. A lot of us marvel at the pyramids in Egypt. What pyramids are at the bottom in the water in Antarctica? What
They
civilization?
got them on, they got them on land and in the water. That was one of the biggest metropolises during the age of it, the Atlantis. We didn't call it Atlantis, we called it the Atlantis.
Why?
That was the name of it. And then you had cities like Undal and Umtal, right? So the city that's became known as the hidden lands, the um, Amenti.
Mm.
Amenti means the hidden land, the unknown lands. The unknown lands is talking about that thin place between spiritual and physical, where people keep seeing this infinite plane because they're looking at the full spectrum of the timeline from outside the timeline. So they think it's an infinite plane, but we really in the torsion field.
Right.
The bottom or the top of the torsion field is the stem of the apple that we would call Antarctica. But it's a hole down there that takes you into the inner Earth. There's one in the North Pole too. That's how you know we live in the torsion field. But when we go into our awakening, we see the infinite plane, and we know what we've seen with our spiritual eye is more dependable than the physical. So the ones of us that believe it's flat, they convinced to that because they seen the probability spectrum and timeline, and they can see it as an infinite plane in their spiritual senses. So their spiritual senses is more important than their physical senses is to them. They would rather be spiritually in tune than to be educated by the world around them.
Somebody said Superman spaceship crashed in Antarctica.
It depends on which one of the parts of it you're watching, because some of them have it in the North Pole. Right? But it's still in the icy climate. It's a crystal castle. If you pay attention to it, it's a crystal castle. Right? It's in the cold climate. That's the castle of the princess of the North, the Notre Dame. The Dame of the North. Who is the Dame of the North? She's the princess where the ice is. She's the ice princess. When she get ready to be crowned queen, she becomes Isis, the embodiment of full divine feminine. It's all part of the mapping ancient history in order to restore back Earth to the original people. It's the perpetual process of redemption. And that's why they always talking about crucified saviors, because we was under a blood oath contract that relied on crucified blood to make us comply, because we didn't comply without that. Because the blood of the righteous shall not be spilled in vain. Both the good and the bad said that.
Right. Since we talking about melanin, the different colors we were throughout the history of humanity in this realm. You mentioned blue, you mentioned green. We know movies are oftentimes not entertainment, and the secret societies and even CIA controls Hollywood, and they put a lot of history within the movies disguised as entertainment. What is the deal when you see characters, Rod, like blue characters, like you mentioned Avatar? When you see Sonic the Hedgehog, they done made 3 damn movies about Sonic, cartoons and video games. When you see things like the Smurfs, what do you think when you see these blue entities on camera?
You don't know where the Smurfs come from, huh?
I've heard it. I done forgot. I done heard so much shit. I heard it. People say it. Yeah.
In the Appalachian Mountains, when Scott and Scotia escaped the assassins from Europe, Vikings brought them over here. Where Scotia went, they named it later on Nova Scotia. Where Scott went, we call Appalachia. When you go in the Appalachian Mountains, they was being sunburned real bad. Big Mama told them,
some kind of Kim Jong-un type dude. Go ahead.
You can't. It's not possible. There's too many systems and checks and balances in place. He can't never, even if he try to go rogue, there's something there to stop him. Anything that he's doing right now, Department of Defense, military high command, the White Hats, whatever the F we want to call them, have already advised him this is within your power to do this. Right? You got to remember, it's a whole bunch of senators and congressmen that's from central casting that ain't really in DC. Right? They using skin mask, deep fake, AI, green screen, skin mask, the whole name, in order to hold this illusion in front of y'all up. But the illusion is falling down on its own because people are starting to see exactly the blatant contradictions of the old regimes, the inner workings of how they attack the domestic side of us, right? I told you, the babies got it now. The babies know about Move. The babies know about Mumia Abu Jamal and the police bust him upside his head and shot his partners. The babies know about it now. The babies know about Black Wall Street. They know about Rosewood. And they know that ain't no African American or niggas. Them was the natives of the land that they was trying to move so that they can seize the land. We know about St. Bernard Parish, the shelf of New Orleans that was sunk. Right? We know about all of this. We know how they switched us out in the Dawes Road now. It ain't no secret no more. We know that they want us to surrender who we is so we can't never reclaim our birthright to the land. They keep forgetting that we don't own the land owns us. We just the caretakers. So the land gonna tell us that we need to start taking care of the land because it's going to blight. And it shows in all of the aspects of the human society. All of the societies is breaking down at the same time, no matter what form they are. Think about that. Why are they all breaking down at the same time and they're not all the same types of government? They're not all under a single dictator, or are they? Right? You see it going on after kicking France out. Sick of their shenanigans. Multiple countries, French-speaking countries, is aligning with Ibrahim Traore to oust the colonist control over their domestic affairs. They know how to handle their people because they people. This is why they want us to get up and go to Africa, because then if we all go to Africa talking about we going home, we don't got no land over there. We don't got access. We don't got no motherland coming out of Africa. Our motherland coming out of Mesoamerican, the Fertile Crescent of the Gulf of America, formerly the Gulf of Mexico. That's where our genetic stock come from the Amazon in South America all the way around to the Mississippi in North America. Mitochondrially tied to this land. And it's just nature. It's not anything that they can tell us, the ones who know what's going on. What we know is confusing to a lot of people, but what we know is in our blood. It ain't on no paper. Our DNA tell us we belong here. We've been saying it, but we've been whispering it on the low. You know, we got Indian in us. Grandma said we have Indian. Big Papa say we ain't no African, we Indian. We was always here. What are you talking about, Mama? I don't know what your granddaddy talking about. What they tell you at school? Okay, then. Them right here what your granddaddy talking about with his old ass sitting up there rocking in that chair, spitting that tobacco off the porch. We don't care about what he's saying. Right? What they tell you in school, what your history books say. Who is we in the history books? They say we slaves, we come from Africa on ships. Okay, then. Well, Papa said we was already here. Don't hear what your Papa talking about. He ain't been to school. He ain't got a third grade education. That's probably a good thing. Because the education system is the programming network for them to steal your baby's mans to work for their interests.
Hey, Rod, somebody said, what does, shout out Oakland, man. Shout out that boy, NPC game, man, in Oakland. What does the Wood Snake Lunar New Year resonate with? The Wood Snake Lunar New Year's resonate with?
That's coming from the Chinese zodiac, the year of the snake, and the element that is under is wood, but you also have a wood snake in nature. If you look up wood snake, it tell you the characteristics of the snake, which will tell you the nature of the frequency of the year of the wood snake. It don't tell you what's gonna happen. It just tell you that the energy will be moving along these lines as a wood snake, right? So I didn't do the investigation on it because I'm looking for the Mardi Gras. I'm waiting on that. I haven't even did no new research about.
Yeah, Washington.
Mhm.
Somebody said, could you go in on the gold being heist from 9/11 deal?
Yeah, that was discovered when one of the van's tires melted trying to escape, and it got trapped down there. And then they realized that it was multiple vans full of gold, and they also got footage of them on some kind of camera that they had in there loading the gold up. That's how we know about it. It's probably gonna come out with the release of the 9/11 files. That should be coming up soon.
Yeah, Donald Trump. Yeah, that's another thing, man. Donald, like he released in the stuff about which we already know about the Kennedy, the driver shot him. We already Bill Cooper had already told everybody, William Cooper. But all this stuff that's being released, Martin Luther King, we knew that about that. So a lot of the stuff that's coming out, we already knew, but Trump, it's all coming out. That's why I like the year of truth,
Hey,
2025, man.
remember, the Supreme Court of the United States had ordered the case file sealed for Martin Luther King, JFK, RFK into the year 2025.
Yeah.
Right? It's the year 2025, so they already knew. That's also in Behold a Pale Horse. You talk about it in there, and it's another book called War at Home.
Mm-hmm.
I think he talk about it in there too. He got a thicker version of it that go into more stuff, but it's not called War at Home, but it's the same author and it's the same material, just expanded. But in there, he talk about the sealing of the files. Tupac files were sealed in 2025, but they released them early. They released Tupac files, Biggie files, Michael Jackson's, Prince, all of them celebrities' files have been released, and all of them being extorted by the JDL.
So do the Tupac file, do it say that they still don't know his whereabouts? They can't confirm his death?
Who?
Tupac.
Wait a minute, say that again. I didn't understand the question. I didn't hear the question.
The files they leak, did it go into that he faked his death?
No. It's they go for the Las Vegas narrative in the file and they stop reporting on it at 2025. But one of the Las Vegas homicide detectives did a newspaper report, and he said, and there's more evidence Tupac is alive than dead. So I don't know what they're doing with Keefe D.
Damn. I believe that too, man. It's too much shit. Then how the hell he gonna shoot a video about him escaping to Mexico and then on the
But Mexico, it was Arizona.
Okay, Arizona. Yeah, well, yeah, to the Nation of Islam camp.
Wasn't the Nation of Islam camp? It was a reservation.
Like for the Nation of Islam?
No, the native
women. It was Muslim women in the video.
The right, but them just the people that was in the video. It was okay. So they built up. It's some of the poorest tribes on the land was in Arizona.
Okay. Yep.
And Tupac wanted to give some economic stimulus to those impoverished tribes down there.
Wow.
And one of them adopted him as their high chief. and they all swore allegiance, and they got a whole bunch of Cali. It'd be a bad idea to run up on him. I can tell you that. No matter who you is, it's a bad idea. If he ain't coming and invite you to come see him like he did DMX. That's what DMX got arrested in Arizona for. They wanted him to tell him more about this, what Tupac was doing. He want to know what he up to. They know he ain't gone, but they want to know what he up to. And DMX played crackhead. Oh no, I'm just sitting there looking for something. Put something in the air, smoking or something. I don't know what you're talking about.
Man,
right.
That shit deep.
Remember Dog Man got caught playing the police?
Yeah.
Remember what he said he told him?
You said dog man, the dog DMX.
Yeah. You remember what he said he told the police?
Nah, I don't remember.
He said he told the police, y'all playing the role. I might as well get in on some of this too.
Yeah.
And that's why they arrested him.
That's crazy.
He told them they was acting, playing a role.
Hey, what you say don't make sense. It sound about right because they kind of show like they kind of allude to the fact that the Nation of Islam might have helped him, like helped some kind of way, helped him get to that part too. You think so?
Well, based on Quincy Jones said that it was the Nation of Islam that did the shooting in Vegas.
Damn. Yeah, the same with Biggie. They said the same about Biggie. A dude dressed like the Nation of Islam was the one that he like a dude that did the shoot.
Yeah, it's basic math 101. Why was RZA Islam present when Nipsey got shot?
Damn, this shit getting.
Why was Nipsey mama sitting in the same parking lot when Nipsey gets shot in the car? What was she looking for? She the one said it out of her mouth. She said, I was there. I was sitting right there in the car. So she knows something. What she know? Right?
Good question.
So it's a whole lot of other stuff going on. We know who put the hit on him.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So they can, according to the rules of war. Remember Tupac said, I did everything righteous by the rules of war. You remember him saying that?
Right.
Okay, now, according to the rules of war, if a general or a high-ranked military official on the battlefield is at a high chance of being assassinated, then it's the supreme commander's job, the one that's the overseer of all of the leaders, to pull him off the battlefield so that his valuable strategic knowledge can be used, but they can't assess for him on the battlefield. Right? That's straight out of Machiavelli, straight out of Sun Tzu, straight out of Mao Zedong. Right? So when you take somebody out of the game, that means you confirm that he's the target. It's like when you playing chess and somebody pushing too hard on you, and then you have to make a castle move.
Yeah.
That's the same thing.
Yeah. Somebody said, why are Africans trying to claim us now, trying to say we are from Africa?
Listen, all Africans don't think we from Africa. Most of them know we not from Africa, but everybody that look like us ain't us. Some of the people that's trying to lure us over there is doing that because they work for somebody who want to lay claim to this land.
The black hand, white glove. You said it. I've been noticed they doing that though. They the one promoted to go back to Africa thing. They the one set up the Pan-African movement. These guys, I mean not the Pan-African movement. Well, I mean to say the JDL.
Listen, that's where your Niagara movement came from. All those was being put together at the same time. The Niagara movement became the NAACP.
Yeah.
Their job was to get the angry niggas and calm them down. That's it. Nothing else.
Damn.
Because if you pay attention, all they ever did is calm the angry niggas down when they got mad. They never did nothing else.
Yeah. Jesse Jackson's, and Al Sharpton niggas.
Anyway, so these organizations is being put up as institutions because it's easier to fight an individual with an institution than it is to fight him alone.
Right.
And so they wage war against us individually, and because we don't know it, we end up getting slapped by the invisible man. We gonna fight the nigga closest to us. We get slapped upside the head by the unseen hand. As soon as we turn around, we see somebody that's from the neighboring tribe, and we think he's the bad guy.
Right. Right.
He ain't the unseen hand. He got slapped by him too. That's why he over here looking at you.
Somebody said, will the United States go to war with the Mexican cartel?
That's all smoke and mirrors.
Yeah. It says, let's see, Nipsey Hussle. Is Nipsey Hussle still alive?
He's in Eritrea. He went back to his people's land to lay low until the storm was over.
What else y'all got, man? It says, how many original tribes are in America currently?
It's thousands of us over here. Tribes is families,
yeah,
extended family structures. Yeah. And they broke up the families in order to break up our understanding of how to operate from the farm to the city. They wanted to make a disconnect. Every family had a family farm that they turned into a plantation. They turned Big Mama house into the big house. Sweethearts swindled their way in to sell the land because we didn't believe in selling land. It's all in front of us, but we seeing it from where somebody else is telling us to look. But look where they told you not to look, you're going to find more of the right answers than to look where they told you to look. Because when you look where they tell you to look, that's the same as the herding dog herding the sheep in the direction he want them to go.
What else y'all got, man? So raw, and then how long you think paper money got till it goes out? Paper money, because it seemed like to me, how long you think?
We're going to have some kind of currency that's not a card. That's going to be, the first one going to be an interim currency. Right? Once we first start back, and because we got to redesign the currency. So whatever they come out with, we don't know if we're going to keep it or redesign it yet. All of the states, just about like 40-something states, have already voted to go back to the gold standard. So we got an overwhelming majority that want to go back to the gold standard. Canada has the same QSIP number as America. That means seizing the corporation seized the Canadian corporation as well. When the Canadian corporation was seized, that left Queen Diallo as the commander-in-chief. Right? And it took that French puppet, what's his name? I don't remember his name. But it took him, and he became part of the Canadian version of the deep state. Right? And then they got a whole bunch of tribal efforts going on across that northern lands they call Canada, that's also pushing for all of the tribes to restore tribal jurisdictional supremacy across the land. By disqualifying the judges, by putting them on notice, the judges and the lawyers, what does that do for all of the cases that judges and lawyers been adjudicating? If we find out they criminals, we find out they foreign agents. Think about that, let that sink in. They don't belong here. And they sending people to prison, but they don't belong here. How do they do that when they don't belong here? Who told us to agree to that? When did we agree to that? Because in the Constitution that we apparently they say we agreed to it, but I don't see Chief Little River name on the Constitution. I don't see Chief Standing Bear. I don't see Chief Yellow Hawk or none of that on the Constitution. So who is these people and what do they have to do with us? And why should we care? If we don't see no tribal leadership's name on this paper and all of the names is European, I mean, it's a European operation. It's not a tribal operation from us. Most of us was written in a law as outlaw tribes, belligerent tribes, non-treaty dependent nations. When they say non-treaty, that means that we the ones they at war with. But we became so comfortable and conditioned in the system because we've learned how to function reasonably well in this system that we forget that it was better before they came than it is today. So the people got to see the absurdity in order to witness the fall of this shenanigans charade.
Somebody said, you think Donald Trump gonna make Canada the 51st state after he offered that
all of the lines of demarcation gonna change.
Say that again, Rod.
All of the lines of demarcation is gonna change. None of the names of none of the states is gonna be the same. The outline, the land, the territory that they map out as that state is not gonna be the same state line as it was before. We might go back to territories, right? I'm not sure what the layout gonna be because that's not what I'm supposed to be doing. But I do know that we have to change the names of all the capitals. Yep. We have to change all the lines of demarcation, and we have to change the name of as many cities as possible in our process of reclaiming everything. We can't leave it like they left it.
Hey, if you want to find out what tribe you from, for like 10 different people ask that question.
And they're not treating them the way they need to be treated. That's one end of the spectrum. The other end of the spectrum is like, yo, we are different. We have to get treated differently because we are different. We have to, you know, whatever. So, Rod, I want to go historical. I'm not necessarily, because like I said, I don't want to.
Right, I'm with you.
Flag the channel or something like that, but it's just constantly since the time I was born, you always hear about race, black, white. You see Rodney King, you see this. It's when you white, sometimes you could ignore it because you ain't got to go through shit in terms of race-related issues. But when you black, that shit is in your face all the time. You could ignore it and act like you're oblivious to it, or you could accept it and decide whether or not you're gonna triumph over it. Some people don't fall victim to it. Other people, such as myself, says I'm greater than that. I'm literally God incarnate in human form. So not even racism, white supremacy, nothing could stop this train from rolling. So there's different ways to go on about it. But Rod, to go way back, I was talking to what's the brother's name? Q Reeves, and he was talking about the root races. I'm trying to figure out, when did all this shit start? How did we even get from spirit to dragon form? Niggas said we was dragons. Then they said we was this. Then we was that. We was green and we was this. That all of a sudden we became brown. Let's talk about the root races a little bit. And I know you told me Madame Blavatsky talked about that. What can you tell me about the root races on planet Earth, Rodriguez?
Okay, I'm gonna give you a good example. You know, you got the sign Bushman, right?
Yeah.
And you got the pygmy.
Uh-huh.
These are two of the oldest root races on the planet. They both little people. They both melanated, but they not the same people. Right? And the Khoisan is a couple thousand years older, I think, than the pygmy or the Twa.
Right.
Right? So we talking first and second root race. When we talking root race, this is how they got us separated in the Darwinian evolutionary theory. Homo sapien, Homo erectus, Homo habilis, Homo Cro-Magnon man. All of these different subgroups are different what they call races. Now I got a sidetrack on the race philosophy because the race is the way the war is being fought. The turn everybody against the ones who is the birthright heirs was the intent. The skin color paradigm was used, but the caste system was applied through skin color. When you remember that they wouldn't have let us into any institutions, Dr. Neely Fuller told us 9 areas of people activity, add health, you got 10, right? They used that race dynamic and superiority and inferiority complexes to control people. Most of us don't know that all of those mulattoes from the South married pale faces in the North when they escaped after the so-called Emancipation Proclamation, right? That's what the whole purpose of that movie, Imitation of Life, is to show you that a lot of us, we went off path and became big celebrities in Hollywood and on Broadway and some of the plays that traveled the world, right? They was passing.
Give me an example. Somebody was passing. Give me an example.
Elvis Presley, John Wayne, Marilyn Monroe, J. Edgar Hoover. I can sit there and do this until I'm blue in the face. And some of the people, they be like, he wasn't passing. They was passing. Elvis' mama was an octoroon.
They could keep Elvis, man. They could keep Elvis around.
Hey, look, I don't care what they do with him.
But his mom was an octoroon.
Yeah.